Hey everyone, Spazzy Dragon here, and welcome to this sort of like a tutorial, sort of like a guide, but not really because there's no video. And yeah, exactly, there's no video for this video, so just put this in the background to whatever it is that you're currently doing and just listen up. As you probably understood by the title, today we're going to talk about piracy. But the actual piracy tutorial, as in, examples of the in-game piracy encounters, is going to be later because I'm constantly adding new stuff that I constantly keep forgetting to add. And by this point, the video is about 40 minutes long, actually. And actually, at this point, I'm starting to think if this is the sort of tutorial a new player needs, because it's not about the actual piracy encounter that makes piracy such a big deal and when it comes to Discovery, but it's actually the overall way how the community thinks and how community works and how the community views piracy as a roleplay type. So this is the first thing that we'll need to quickly discuss before we actually move on to the actual, piracy examples. But yeah, what exactly is piracy? Because, well, if you ask about 3 people, then, depending on what characters they usually play on, where in series they usually spend the most time, you could get 3 completely different answers, and that's one of the biggest problems about piracy, because the community's view on the subject is so very different from each other that it's very hard to pinpoint what exactly it is, and even hard to make a tutorial about it. So anything that I would make and show you as a new player, it would really not be about a tutorial, but more like my own personal experience and my own personal views, and yeah. Okay, so let's just say that you are a new player, and if you're watching this, hopefully you are a new player because you're interested about piracy. Let's just say you're the sort of newbie who likes to learn from his mistakes and get some sort of feedback on your progress on Discovery, because that's one of the ways you can get assimilated into the whole community thing in a whole. Usually it wouldn't be a problem. That is the best way to go around things, like ask if you don't know. Ask around, give examples of what you're currently doing in game, and people will try to help you if they can. When it comes to piracy, though, the problem here is that, as I already said, the whole view on piracy is so very different that no matter how you do it, someone somewhere is going to tell you that you're doing it wrong. And if you're the sort of person who really takes it to heart, like any sort of constructive criticism or criticism as a whole, then it's pretty much a you cannot win situation. There is no way you can do piracy right, quote, right. Because someone somewhere is always gonna say that you're doing it wrong and you're the cancer of disco and blah 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 blah. Anyway, as far as I can see, there's about 4 ways you can describe the community when it comes to piracy. Like, how can you sort people into how they see piracy? So the first one is pretty straightforward, that piracy is a sort of roleplay. It's always been a roleplay. It's never about the money. It's about the interaction between the trader and the pirate, because, well, this is a roleplay server, so everything you do is within the grounds of roleplay. So technically you could do a lot of damage on a pirate character. You can just pirate for money, and even though you can make everyone drop all of their cargo and ask for like 100% of the income so they don't have any income, you shouldn't do that, because that is not what the server is about, and it's more like the actual encounter. So piracy for the sake of the piracy roleplay, that is one of the ways you can view this. Now the second part of the community is the complete opposite. They say that piracy adds the sort of holy shit moment to Discovery, and otherwise just spices up the whole very monotonous trading or mining or whatever. That piracy is something you need to do deliberately, very harshly. You deliberately need to do as much damage to the player as you can, because it just adds, like, the whole idea of not encountering a pirate and trying to avoid a pirate is in fact part of the pirate/trader encounter, and so that it should be done like that, because it just adds this whole space is dangerous, like quote, space is dangerous feeling to piracy and trading as such. So the actual trader pirate encounter is whether or not you get caught, and being caught is not the actual encounter, but being caught is the roleplay, so to speak, the roleplay. What's the word again? Well, technically, it's your sort of punishment that you fucked things up and you got caught. So, this other part of the community thinks that piracy should be technically as mean as possible, and that involves shooting the cargo, asking for pretty much all the profit, so on and so on. And then there's the third part of the community who think that it's pretty much up to the pirate at the moment. Like, they acknowledge that yes, it can be done on both sides, but it pretty much depends on the pirates. People, for example, may keep both kinds of pirates, like a good pirate or a bad pirate, evil pirate, so to speak. And pirates, sometimes they pirate for the roleplay, sometimes they pirate for the sake of piracy. Okay, fair enough. But one of the things, and of course the fourth side of the argument is pretty much people who don't really give a shit. Okay, so one of the things you need to understand about the community is that overall we're sort of paranoid, because this is a roleplay server, so obviously things like metagaming and power gaming and, such things still exist on this sort of server. And so, in all, it's very hard not to take piracy personally when you're flying a trader. So what this means that, for example, you encounter a pirate. For example, like me, if I'm on my trader and I encounter a pirate and this guy asks me a very high demand, the first thing I'm trying to figure out is whether or not this guy actually knows who I am. Like, do they know who's on the other side of the character? Because I instantly have this feeling that they're doing this only because they know who I am, and then if I pay them or they blow me up, I have this feeling that I'm gonna go on Skype and I'm gonna say, lol, 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 I killed Spazzy, lol, lol, lol. Yeah, that's very hard not to take it that way, but you must understand that it's not always like that. People are not always out there just to get you, and this is something that new players need to understand about piracy, is that even though, yes, it is possible, and yes, a lot of people actually do this, the point of piracy is not to fuck the other party over, because that's not what the game's about, right? You don't always play the bad guy, and you don't always play the good guy. So this guy that you're currently pirating, and your intention is to stomp this guy into the ground, that guy might be flying with you like tomorrow in a group when you're raiding something, and he's gonna remember that. So yes, being an asshole with piracy is a thing, but you need to be very, very careful about that, because, well, it's gonna come around to bite you sooner or later. And this is just one of the ways you can pirate, and obviously I'm gonna go into more detail about that, but, well, there we go. Now, the obvious thing about the community and piracy is that for some reason, for the last few years, we've been developing this sort of attitude that piracy is, quote, a very one-sided encounter, right? And what this means basically is that if you get caught by a pirate on your trader or miner, there's physically nothing you can do. They're going to ask either your credits or your cargo or whatever, and you can't really do anything because they're probably flying a ship that your punny little transport can't really deal with. And the best thing you can try to do is either call for help, which is completely pointless because there's no way this help is going to, help you survive. And, the other one is trying to run away, but, that's, again, that doesn't work most of the time, so it's very risky in that regard. But yeah, this is the community's overall feeling that piracy is really one-sided. But see, as I already mentioned, how the second type of piracy works, the sort of intentionally asshole-ish one, I already mentioned that the encounter, like the whole idea between the pirate and the trader, does not start when they meet. Like, it's not, the roleplay between the trader and the pirate does not start when they meet, when they encounter each other and the piracy, actually, the actual act of piracy begins. No. Part of the trader / pirate encounter is not encountering the pirate in the first place, and that you can do this by having a friend of yours flying in front of you and just, sharing whatever profit is with you. So obviously you're gonna make a little less money than flying solo and getting all of the money for yourself, but again, this is gonna be safer. And if you're the sort of person who doesn't want to, pay the pirate on principle, so maybe this is your this is your alternative, to just get a friend or a freelancer or whatever, just scout the head. Obviously, you're gonna make a lot less money because you have to pay the scout, but whatever. Scouting, by the way, works better if you have a group. If you ever want to try scouting for people and actually making money, then you might want to go to either the Omegas or Tau-23 and just poke around for the IMG. They're actually pretty known to hire people for scouting. So the second idea is that you're using maybe jump holes or whatever. This obviously doesn't really work for 5K transports because you're sort of it's sort of expected that you don't know about jump holes because you are a representative of some sort of corporation. So just suddenly flying off into the asteroid field where that rogues and other sort of pirates just in theory inhabit, it doesn't make sense. So while jump holes is a very good alternative to just sort of escape from pirate encounters, it doesn't really make sense for a lot of IDs, so it really depends on your... If you're a freelancer, fair enough. But, that's that. What else? Well, the third idea is obviously encountering the pirate and paying, but the problem is that you don't ever know how much are they going to ask you. And the secondly is whether or not it is money that they're after, because there are some IDs that actually, this is something that a lot of new players don't know, because it's not really mentioned in the rules that some IDs, as we already know, they allow you to override certain rules. For example, there are some IDs, like the Xeno ID, for example, that allow you to treat traders as combat targets, like non-liberty traders as combat targets, and a lot of new players don't know. So they encounter a Xeno, they know that, okay, I encountered the pirate, here comes the demand, and there's no demand. That guy just says, hey, look at you, you're importing shit, time to die, and boosh, and people don't know that. So piracy and trading encounters 101, know your IDs, because you will know which people you want to evade. And if you check the player list and you see that, for example, there's Xeno Alliance in Colorado and you're flying around with a Samur ID, then maybe you don't really want to go there. And that's just one of the ideas. Secondly, if you want to be a good pirate, and then you really need to be a good trader, because knowing what are the most popular trade routes is essential for piracy, because it's pretty much goes down to location. Fair enough. And again, it works both ways. If you want to be a good trader and maximize your profit without encountering pirates, you actually need to know which are the most dangerous routes. So maybe you want to take something alternative when there's not a lot of people around. Because, okay, so maybe you won't get as much money per trip, but at the same time you're going to earn more money in general because you're not getting pirated. But again, that really depends on stuff. So what else can I say about piracy? If you're gonna make a pirate, you pretty much need to realize, like, what is your goal? Why are you pirating? Because, well, piracy for the sake of piracy, I admit, is very fun. But, you need to figure out why exactly are you putting money into a character that essentially you have no idea what you're going to use for. So, for example, you can pirate for the money and the cargo. Fair enough. Piracy, when compared to, say, trading or mining, is obviously not the best source of income. It's obvious, right? And at that point, one of the things you need to take note is the fact that okay, fair enough, there's a lot of traders who probably won't pay you, and that's their choice. That's one of their choices, like if whether or not they want to pay. But don't push it with the amount of money you're demanding from them, because at some point they're just not going to pay you. The whole idea of piracy in that regard is that you need to propose an amount of money they need to pay you, so they choose to pay you instead of just, flipping you off and just, not paying so you can kill them. The idea here is that you should, technically speaking, try to sit at the end of the trade route. So the idea is that the more profitable for them it is, the better. And in this case, it's not just about the worth of cargo, because, as I remind you, filling up a 5K transport with, some pretty cheap cargo that sells a lot for somewhere else costs maybe 500,000 credits, maybe 1,000,000 credits, I don't know exactly, but, losing 1,000,000 credits is better than paying a pirate for about 3,000,000 credits. But at the same time, if they have already spent about 15 minutes to get to that system, and the system is like you're pirating them in the same system that their sell point is, then yes, it's going to be most likely that you are going to get some money, because okay, fair enough, that's 3,000,000 from them, but they are making 12,000,000, but at the same time they don't want to really fly all of that time again, because that 15 minutes just lost, and trading is not really fun in general. So piracy, in essence, when you're pirating for money, is trying to figure out how much you need to ask people, and taking into account how much time they already spent. And it's a bit tricky, but as soon as you get a hang of it, you're probably going to do pretty well. It's a very brag-worthy thing to say that, oh, I fund all of my characters through piracy. So it means that, yeah, you're pretty good at piracy in the sense that not only you are pirating a lot of players, but you're actually giving reasonable demands that allows you to make a lot of money, which means that these people are actually paying you and not telling you to piss off, right? So what else? You can always pirate for roleplay. Now, the thing about piracy and roleplay is that I personally don't think that is the biggest of the deal. Like, if I'm going to compare all of these reasons you can pirate, then I would say that piracy for roleplay is, it might be the most noble one when you think about it, but it's not the most profitable. It's not really that common, because, okay, the roleplay you do is always there, because, well, you're interacting with a person, right? But at the same time, there's a lot of ways you can pirate, because, let's face it, asking for money and cargo is not your only options. You can also do some sort of roleplay demands. For example, making the guy your prisoner or whatever. Like, the sky's the limit within the server rules. And, well, that's just one of the ideas. So, piracy for the sake of roleplay is, in fact, very uncommon, because these are the people who don't want to, you must understand that I'm referring to people who don't pirate for the money, they don't pirate for the sake of piracy, they pirate for the roleplay and the encounter. And the problem is that it's actually a bit of a trader-sided problem, because these people are trading for money. So obviously, not all of us have all day to play Freelancer. So when we do pirate and when we do trade, then we need to get as much money as possible. And at some point, you encounter a pirate, and I'm saying this personally because I had these encounters that, okay, I see the pirate is really trying to roleplay with me, but I just keep looking at my watch and know, oh shit, I only have 30 minutes to just get enough money so I can, like, raid with my friends today. Could we speed this up, please? Yeah, you will encounter people like this, and there's a lot of people like this, so, just don't just point at me saying, hey, Spazzy, you don't know how to roleplay, man. Okay. And the third idea is that, yes, this is a bit of more asshole-ish and trollish thing, but yes, people do pirate for the blue message. Now, the thing you must understand that, obviously, if the trader refuses your demand, you can legitimately just blow them up. And a lot of players tend to ask a specific amount of money, which sort of isn't too much, but they sort of know that the trader is not going to pay them anyway, and so you pirate for the blues. Okay, fair enough. it's a completely valid choice, and we already have a lot of IDs that allow this, as for example the after mentioned Xeno ID, which pretty much allows you to kill traders, except for the ones that are in Liberty, like the Libertonian companies, like the Universal Shipping, Agera, and Crier, such and such. So yeah, that's always a possibility, but the only problem is that I don't really recommend this for a new player, because at some point you might fuck up. And if you don't know, like, every single aspect of the server rules, I realize you're not going to read the server rules once and suddenly know everything, because there's a couple of moments where it doesn't take like trying to apply rationality and like common sense to the server rules doesn't really work that way. So my suggestion is you don't do it until you have been here for a while and you know how the community more or less reacts to this sort of thing, because this can get you a lot of trouble, because as soon as people know who you are, these people just usually get crucified. Like, in the literal sense, they're going to get crucified by the community, and you're not really going to have a lot of fun, because, Discovery is pretty much about the people you encounter and the people you interact out of roleplay and in roleplay, so if you fuck up your relations with the community, then you're probably gonna get a very bad time, especially as a new player, because if you don't have anyone to fly with, then you might as well just be playing single player. So I suppose that's pretty much it for part 1. I realize I've been skipping up over a lot of things, but this video is already 21 minutes long, so this is just very simplistic way I'm trying to explain how exactly piracy is viewed by the community and how people view piracy in general. And again, the act of piracy, the actual encounter, is very simple. You make the person stop, tell him to what exactly you want from them, and if they agree, and if they don't, then you sort of just kill them. Okay, there's nothing that's that problematic there, and the only reason why that video is taking so long and why it's growing in length, because it's pretty much about location. I'm showing like different ways you can do this, different ships, why this ship is good for that, why ship that is good for that, and yes. Oh, by the way, obviously the pirate ID is a bit of a drama magnet for when it comes to Discovery, because it pretty much goes like this. The pirate ID is as close as you can get to a public terrorist ID. All you need to do is pretty much demand a player to pay something, and for example, if you're running around with a very heavy fighter and you want to shoot unlawfuls, then you pretty much fly up to them, ask for them to pay you. Most of the time they're not gonna pay you and they're going to shoot you instead, so you can have a little fight with them. Yes, fair enough, but quite frankly, you can do this, obviously, and no one's gonna stop you, but at the same time it's sort of frowned upon, because the argument is like, well, okay, if you're going to use a pirate ID as a terrorist ID, you just, why not go to Connecticut? And yeah, fair enough, it's a pretty interesting thing. Well, I suppose the only question that remains to be answered here is why I pirate, and the thing about it is I'm sort of, depending on my mood, I tend to pirate for all of these reasons, but from my earlier years, I really loved the idea that I'm doing damage, some sort of damage to, I have some sort of I'm influencing someone's roleplay on the server, and at the same time, the trick there is to hit as many traders as possible, but at the same time know when to flee, and that was the fun in piracy for me. Back in the day when I was part of the Liberty Rogue player faction, my ship was actually quite known for the fact that I would always not be where they think I am. Basically, okay, so I pirate 3 or 4 traders, they obviously snitch me, and snitch my position to the lawful players, and by the time they get there, I'm already long gone. And the same is about bounty hunting and such and such. So one of the ways you can actually, one of the reasons you might want to play a pirate is to get respect, to be a known pirate, which sort of doesn't make sense, because, as I already mentioned in couple of my earlier videos, that Discovery is a pretty small community, everyone knows everyone, and there's not a lot of people online, especially these days after the server. Oh, by the way, the server is back. Hopefully it's gonna stay back. And the thing about Piracy is that you're sort of tempted to be known like a very good pirate, like in the sense of you're a complete jackass and people hate you, but at the same time, being known as a pirate is probably one of the most stupidest thing to do, because let's just say, bounties, these people who are making money on their traders, they probably have a lot of money, and they can place a bounty on you. What this means is that any bounty hunter or freelancer who registers on the forum on that bounty can claim your life. And let me just say that these people who fly bounty hunters and freelancers who hunt bounties on a regular basis, they're pretty damn professional at what they do. And there's been moments when there's a new very annoying pirate, like pirates a lot of people, always runs away, or they're very good. At some point, people are going to just place so many bounties on him that the moment the guy logs on, he's gonna get his shit pushed in. He's gonna instantly get wrecked. And that's just something you also need to think about when about piracy. So, in general, like too long didn't read, whatever. What do we want to know about piracy? So, first of all, the whole drama around piracy comes not from the in-game interactions, but from the fact that people view how piracy should be done from their own opinion. That you can pirate for the sake of piracy, you can pirate in order to be some sort of danger to the players in space, because just it adds a little bit of fun in the sort of dwarf fortressy sort of way. And well, you can be a bit of both. My suggestion: try both. Keep two kinds of characters. Try to see which one gets you the most fun out of it, and try not to fuck up, because for all of the ways new players usually end up on the sanction board, piracy is probably one of the most common things. And the reason why and the whole specifics are going to already said. They're going to be addressed in the actual piracy tutorial, so yeah. Well, hopefully this little video was fun to listen to, and hopefully it will help you somehow, maybe. And hopefully I didn't offend too many people, but okay, as I said, you can say what you want about piracy, you can do piracy what you want. Someone somewhere is going to say that you're doing wrong. So this is just one of those examples. Remember that everything that I just said right now, it comes from my own personal point of view. So this does not necessarily mean the admin team thinks this way, that the multitude or even a smaller portion of the community thinks this way. This is how I see it. I'm still around, I'm still sane, so perhaps I'm doing something right. Anyway, this is Spazzy Dragon. Hopefully you like this video. Comment in the comment section. By the way, the Q&A is still up there, so ask away questions if you want. And hopefully I'll meet you again on my part. Cheers.